I recently built a new computer. The graphics card is the only component that isn't new. I couldn't find a reasonably priced card, and I refused to pay a premium price for a low-end card. Instead, I took the graphics card from my old computer. However, this gave me an opportunity to compare the CPU's impact on Davinci Resolve. I've already done a video on the free version. This time I'm going to look at Davinci Resolve Studio, but also compare it to the free version. Hello, how are you? I'm not going to go through the details of each computer. You see the specifications here. They are by no means equal when it comes to cores, memory, SSD. If you want more details on my new computer, I have an entire video where I cover each component and my reasons for getting them. You'll find the link in the description. Even though some of the results I present might be generally applicable, most of them only apply on similar systems, so keep that in mind. I put all the numbers in a spreadsheet. If you want to examine them yourself, there is a link in the description. I found a benchmark called PugetBench that performs a number of tests and calculates the score based on the results. These are the results I got when I tried their free version. I'm not going to go through all the details, but here are a couple of observations. For most of the results in the 4K media section, the Ryzen 9 is 2 to 3 times faster. There are only small differences in the GPU effect sections, which is expected. I mean, the GPU is the same in both cases. There are some differences in the fusion sections, but nowhere near the differences we saw in the 4K media section. To summarize, it's clear that the CPU matters, but only partially. Now to some practical tests with Davinci Resolve Studio, starting with generating proxy media. It took roughly the same time on both systems. I'd say the difference is within the margin of error. The rest of the test I've done concern timeline delivery. I'll begin by looking at the native encoder. First off is rendering 1080p using H.264 codec. Here we see quite a difference. The Ryzen 9 is about 4 times faster. However, we get a different result when switching to the H.265 codec. On the Core i5, the H.265 codec is 3.4 times faster than the H.264. But on the Ryzen 9, it's 11% slower. Still, the Ryzen 9 is faster than the Core i5, but just barely. Several YouTubers have noticed that the quality of a 1080p video improves if it's upscaled to 4K before it's uploaded to the YouTube. Therefore, I tested to render the same 1080p footage to 4K. It's obvious that upscaling the footage takes longer time, about 3 times on both systems. But that doesn't affect the overall result. The Ryzen 9 is about 4 times faster. Again, on the Core i5, H.265 is faster, about 3.3 times. The Ryzen 9 is still faster, but not by much. Also, H.265 is about 19% slower on the Ryzen 9. Next is 4K footage with the H.264 codec. The result is similar to 1080p, that is, the Ryzen 9 is 4.2 times faster. It's the same story with H.265, on the Core i5 it's almost 5 times faster. The Ryzen 9 is only marginally faster than the Core i5, and here's another difference. Compared to H.264, it's 21% faster, not slower as in previous tests. Finally, let's look at downscaling 4K to 1080p. Once again, the Ryzen 9 is faster, unsurprisingly, about 3 times. And yes, H.265 is faster, at least on the Core i5, about 2.8 times. On the Ryzen 9, H.265 is as fast as H.264, and as we've seen before, slightly faster than the Core i5. Now to what I think is the most interesting part, the results when using the NVIDIA encoder. I'm not going to go through all the numbers. It's sufficient to notice the difference, or rather lack of, between the Core i5 and the Ryzen 9. They are within 1 or 2% of each other, except for one. I think it's safe to say that in these cases the CPU doesn't really matter at all. Another thing to note is that the NVIDIA encoder isn't necessarily faster than the native encoder when it comes to the Ryzen 9. Before I wrap this up, a quick comparison between the free version and the studio version. I would say that on the Core i5, the studio version is faster. Not always by much, as we saw with 4K footage and the H.265 codec, but with the Ryzen 9 it's a different story. In some of the tests the free version is actually faster. Although I would still say that the studio version is overall faster, but in many cases not by much. If I were to take a stab at explaining the results, especially the small differences we saw with the NVIDIA encoder, I'm guessing the graphics card is the culprit. Much of the performance is limited to the graphics card. In this case, my old computer is powerful enough to keep the graphics card busy. With a more recent card, the result might be different. Who knows? So where does this leave us? Well, I think it will be difficult to give any general recommendations. If you're using the free version and have a decent graphics card and an okay CPU, you might see an improvement in render times after upgrading to the Studio version. Obviously, there are other benefits with the Studio version, such as more features, and you can get it bundled with the speed editor, which I enjoy. This is probably the cheapest upgrade path. I mean, upgrading CPU usually means upgrading the motherboard and the memory as well. You can easily spend 2 to 4 times as much on hardware as the cost of Davinci Resolve Studio. And besides, as we saw, there weren't any significant differences between the two CPUs, even though one of them is much newer and considerably more powerful. And even if the free version was on some occasions a little fast on the Ryzen 9, I think it's mainly due to my specific combination of CPU and graphics card. Had the graphics card been just a little more powerful, I wouldn't be surprised if the Studio version had been the fastest across the board. At the time of recording, the beta version of Davinci Resolve 18 has been released. However, I won't go through the troubles of performing the same tests all over again on both systems. But I can tell you this much. On the Ryzen 9, the render times are more or less the same as version 17, with no clear winner. I haven't tried on the Core i5, but I would expect a similar outcome. Otherwise, my impressions of using Davinci Resolve on my new computer aren't that overwhelming. Without proxy media, 4K timelines are jerky. I can't say Fusion clips render any faster. Overall, the CPU utilization is low, which suggests that the CPU has less impact on the performance of Davinci Resolve. Fusion seems to eat gigabytes for breakfast, so having many of them is a good thing. My old computer with less memory than recommended often struggled when doing more complicated things in Fusion. To summarize, don't expect to see any major improvements when upgrading the CPU, especially when we're using the H.265 codec, the Studio version, or 4K timelines. But I've seen YouTubers showing off the brand new computers and how easily they can edit 4K footage. The major difference is that they have graphics card that cost more money than I spent on my new computer. So this begs the question, had I been better off if I put all my money on a new graphics card instead? Except for crying myself to sleep for overspending on a graphics card, I don't know how well suited my old computer is, given the fact that it only has a PCI Express 3 and new cards use PCI Express 4. This could cripple the performance of the card, but it would be interesting to test. Too bad I quit my day job, otherwise I might be able to afford a new graphics card. Oh well, make sure to check back in 2024. By then I've hopefully got my hands on a reasonably priced card and can do a new comparison. But until then, thank you for watching.